She's gonna do a superhero landing. Wait for it.
Hi, I'm the Thesterninator. Welcome to the channel.
Superhero landing. Yeah, that's really hard on your knees.
Hi, it's ya boy. Remember a couple months ago when they first unveiled that Thunderbolts would be getting their own movie, and we all unanimously said, but why though? Well, as a person who recently saw that movie, I have to say that while it's been touted by marketing and commercials as the best Marvel movie since Endgame, I have to strongly disagree. I think that Thunderbolts is one of the best Marvel movies ever. And I know that that's a big thing to say, I know that that's scary, I know what that sounds like.
What? No, all right, I know that sounds bad.
But it takes the structure of the superhero genre, superheroes, supervillains, anti-heroes, regular villains, regular heroes, and regular folks, and turns the entire structure on its head. So I knew coming out of that theater with a half-eaten popcorn in one hand and a probably expired Easter slushy in the other, that I had to turn these into Pokemon. So without much further ado, let's hop into today's video. Hi, I'm the Thesterninator, but my friends call me...
I'm Bob.
Welcome to the channel. While you're here, don't forget to drop down below, like, comment, subscribe, and let's turn some villains into heroes and heroes into Pokemon. Starting out, I do want to say there do be spoilers ahead, so if you haven't seen Thunderbolts and care about that sort of thing, maybe stop, go watch the movie, and then come back. But if you don't care about that sort of thing, then let's hop right into it, starting with Red Guardian. Red Guardian first appeared in Marvel Comics back in Avengers number 43 in 1967, and is actually one of the oldest existing characters that we have in this movie. Yeah, a lot of the characters from this come from more modern takes. After 1967 with Red Guardian, our next oldest characters exist in the mid-1980s and start from there, with the Thunderbolts as a team first unveiling themselves back in 1997, a full decade after DC's Suicide Squad. So for those of you saying one is a ripoff of another, the Thunderbolts did come second. So hopping in, I want to tackle Red Guardian because he's such a fun character and honestly one of my favorite parts of the Black Widow movie. I recently went back and rewatched that, and it's not fantastic, but it is a movie. It's definitely a movie, introduces us to a lot of interesting characters, and I know there are going to be people who say Black Widow had its time or it wasn't very good. It's okay, especially considering some of the movies that we got recently.
Welcome to the MCU, by the way. You're joining at a bit of a low point.
I would much rather watch Black Widow over Eternals any day, but you're not here for my review. So instead, we're going to talk about Red Guardian and turning him into a Pokemon. You see, for this structure, I looked at the fact that I've already created Black Widow as a Pokemon and tried to think what I could do to tie in those aspects to this character. They're kind of this surrogate family after all. But I also realized if I really want to tackle Alexei properly, the best way to do so is making him his own creature, his own Pokemon, his own design. So what better way to tackle our Soviet Captain America, our USSR team super soldier, is to make him big strong bear. So I make Red Guardian into big strong bear and move forward. One of the best things about this design that I love about Alexei Shostakov is that big Santa Claus beard. It really throws him in a league of his own superhero design wise, and having his kind of makeshift type of costume throughout the movie really gives him this feral type of feel that I wanted to capture in this bear. Also, given that he is kind of the father figure, kind of the comedic relief of the movie, I wanted him to feel more friendly as well. So I started with this big round body shape with these big meaty claws and that big fluffy beard. I knew that these were aspects that I wanted to capture no matter what else the design held. So I went in, made this structure, and while I really enjoy the look, it wasn't until I started adding the color and shading that I could really see this start to pop. I actually went back and restructured some of the line work after seeing how the colors fell, mainly because I didn't realize, but the way that I'd initially laid him out looks a lot like he's wearing a Borat swimsuit. And while that may kind of work for the personality of Red Guardian and Alexei Shostakov, I wanted him to still have this sense of heroicism to him, this sense of sheer heroics and that strive for that we see with the character. So I wanted to pull all the jokes away and just make him the character that he is. Funny enough, having those design elements make him fun. That big beard I wanted to be a focal point of the design, and I really feel like it is, and captures some of the jokiness of the character while making him also feel really big and intimidating. So here we have Comredi, the Guardian Pokemon. While many fear this Pokemon for its large and commanding presence, it truly is loyal to its trainer, seeking to use its strength to aid its fellow Pokemon over itself. Originally from a far-off region, this Pokemon was brought over by traders as muscle for insurgent tactics. The name is a play on comrade as well as red and teddy, like a teddy bear, and the normal fighting type is a play on Red Guardian's penchant for punching and basic super soldier abilities. Moving on, I want to make sure that we capture the rest of the family. As I've said, I started previously in another video by looking at Black Widow as a Pokemon, so I wanted to bring that design in. And who better than Yelena? So when looking at Yelena as a character, we have to deconstruct who she is. She's a spy, she's an assassin, she's all of these things, and we want to lay that over this Pokemon framework. Part of that is looking back at the comics. In the design of the character in comics, there's a lot that separates her from Black Widow Natasha Romanoff proper. One thing that she has is she's often seen sporting these goggles that allow her to look like she has multiple eyes. Really gives that intimidation factor by hiding a portion of the face. That's something that I wanted to bring in to differentiate this Pokemon from a Raktasha, which is the other form that we did. I really utilized that as the framework and utilized it to kind of overcomplicate my own structure. Because now not only were we looking at Yelena as she appears in the movie, the story that she has of growth into the design as well, who she is in the comics, and her relationship to the other characters, but also now we're throwing in another Fakemon that I designed from videos a month or so ago. So it became this big complicated hodgepodge of everything, but ultimately I'm really happy with how it turns out. One thing is looking at what color I wanted to bring into the design, because a lot of the characters in Thunderbolts wear their tactical gear. They wear a lot of gray and black, and I realized going in that after we finished Alexi, a lot of these are going to share the same color scheme. So how do we make that a little bit more exciting? Well, we look at the colors that exist throughout the character's story and bring that in. One differentiating factor between Yelena and Black Widow is that Yelena has greens kind of thrown throughout. She has a lot of these cooler colors, from the blue under eye makeup to the green vest that she sported in her first appearance back in Black Widow. I wanted to bring in some of those cool colors while also bringing in those darker tones to kind of make one pop against the other. So there was a lot to play with here, a lot to try and get right, and a lot with potential to go wrong, but I feel like we come up with something that's really fun, really captures the character, while not looking like a one-to-one comparison. Something that I want to throw out there to you guys, which I say every once in a while, but I feel like it bears repeating, is when we do these designs, we're not looking to turn Yelena into a Pokemon one-to-one perfect one across the other, because that's just a person with Pokemon features. Instead, we want to get the idea of the character and put that onto a Pokemon that shares those same ideas and values. So that's what we do here. It may not look like Yelena, but it looks like a character inspired by the characterization of Yelena. So I'm saying Yelena a lot. Let's get back to the design. Belova, the Ball Weaver Pokemon. Rather than build intricate webs, this Pokemon is a master at capture tactics. They will subdue their opponent by spinning an orb of web around them. They seem to have a kinship with the Pokemon Anactasha, although whether it is a friend or enemy remains yet to be seen. The name is a play on Yelena Belova and Ball Weaver spiders, so Belova, with the typing of bug fighting being a connection to our other Black Widow style Pokemon, as well a little bit to Comredi, the previous Pokemon we worked on. Next up, I want to talk about Ava Star, also known as Ghost. Why do I want to talk about Ava Star, also known as Ghost? Because she's a key player in the Thunderbolts, as well as I love Hannah John Kamen. She's a great actress, and I love her. Ghost is a character who first appeared in Marvel Comics all the way back in 1987. Ava Star is new to the MCU, a fresh character, because Ghost is never truly unveiled who their character is, who's behind the mask, but still kind of persists as this modern character. Why? Because Ghost has never really been unmasked in the comics. The creation of Ava Star as The other form, the secret identity of Ghost, is new to the MCU, and I love it. Just the entire design behind how this character teleports or goes through solid object is really cool, and the story behind it, that it's not just phasing through, but phasing out of existence and then back in a separate type of story motif is really, really interesting. So when turning this character into a Pokemon, there was a lot that I wanted to bring into play here. One is that I wanted this character to feel uncanny, to feel weird. I didn't want it necessarily being based on any specific animal or item, and I looked at the Reggies as a key point of example on this. They're not based around any specific item, but they still have structure to them that makes them feel familiar. So I looked at that as an example without wanting to necessarily make this a Reggie. I think of this Pokemon as kind of existing inside and outside of our dimension at the same time. Something that makes them altogether feel uncanny, feel weird, but also allows them to still feel like a Pokemon. Pokemon like Duskull and Ghastly and other ghost types of this simple type of structure were big inspirations here as well, and allow this Pokemon to function as this simplified, complex character, if that makes sense. I wanted the character to feel complex in a way that makes them unknown and unknowable, but simple enough that you can understand the structure that makes them up and makes it feel like it makes sense. A big aspect of this was looking at the mask of Ghost in the Thunderbolts. In the Thunderbolts, Ghost doesn't have a ton going on, it's just kind of this basic combat gear with this trench coat type of vibe, but the mask really shows out in this design. It's something that's this stark white compared to everything else, so I brought that in as a key feature to this Pokemon, allowing the rest to kind of move very amorphously throughout the rest of the design. Very fun, very interesting, and I love the character of Ghost. I can't say that enough. One of my favorite characters. I was so glad to see that she comes back in the Thunderbolts because Ant-Man and the Wasp was a great movie. I know a lot of people don't think that, but I do. I really liked it. And the characterization of Ghost, giving this new spark of life to the character by introducing them and giving them this backstory in such a unique way, I think really allows for these forgotten members of the Marvel Universe to really shine. And I think that's what makes these stories so fun. You look at Guardians of the Galaxy, which is a really good, in my opinion, comparative to the Thunderbolts. It's a team of losers. And so when you have that and you see it working so well, making these losers feel lovable, being able to attach yourself onto the fact that they are not superheroes, much as we, the audience, are not superheroes, but just people trying their best, I think that's where you get that core of what it means to be a hero. Not just because they have superpowers, but because they don't deserve to be in the role that they're in. So yeah, I love Ghost because I feel like she really amplifies that sentiment, and I wanted to make a design that really mimicked the look of the character. So meet Gestar, the spaceless Pokemon. Its origins are unknown, with some claiming that this Pokemon came from another dimension entirely. Its ability to vanish and reappear has researchers believing that it can return to its home dimension at will to move freely through solid objects. Rather than being your typical ghost, it moves with a form of unknown technology. The name brings in Ghost, translated as Ghast, and Star as a reference to Ava Star, the alternate identity of Ghost. Naturally, this Pokemon is a pure Ghost type, but that's no surprise, I think, to anybody. Moving on, let's look at one of the latest additions to Marvel Comics as a whole, that being the Winter Soldier. Bucky Barnes has existed for quite some time in the entirety of the Marvel landscape, but the Winter Soldier first appeared in 2005. That's only 20 years ago, which seems like a long time, but in the grand scheme of characters existing in Marvel Comics, that is no time at all. Think about it this way. Bucky became the Winter Soldier just 3 years before the MCU officially started.
Thought we wouldn't notice, but we did.
So very interesting character, very cool, but I didn't quite know what I wanted to do with this design. I wanted it to feel humanoid, but not entirely human, right? I wanted to feel like there's some sort of secret or mysticism to the character without just making it, hey, what if I make a person with a metal arm and make it a Pokemon? I instead decided to go for this kind of assassin knight type of look, a concept very similar to Pokemon like Shelmet or Carablast. Looking at those designs and utilizing that type of story element, plus mixing in a little bit of Mimikyu with the idea that you don't know what the true Pokemon under this armor is, I feel really attaches itself to Bucky as a character. He's someone with a lost past who doesn't know a ton about their own history, and what they do know, they desperately want to forget. So I focused on utilizing Bucky in that way to translate into a Pokemon. While he is a very cool character and definitely a highlight of the Thunderbolts movie, I wanted to focus in on who the Winter Soldier is at his core. And then I guess I took away that core and put a Pokemon in there and then just put the Bucky suit over that? I don't know. It was a very long night trying to figure out what to do for this design, but ultimately I think that it's something that I can say that I enjoy and that I'm proud of, looking at how the armor and metal are able to showcase themselves in a Pokemon type of aesthetic. And I dig it. I really knew at the very beginning I wanted to make this really big arm. I knew that big arm was going to be a part of the design, and if you know me and you've seen my videos at all, you know giving characters big, chunky, beefy arms is definitely something that is right up my alley. So having Winter Soldier transformed into this covered and armored and hiding what's truly within itself type of character really fit the build for what I was going for here. So meet Sadir, the assassin Pokemon. No one knows what the true form of this Pokemon looks like as it wraps itself in metal shavings, molding them into a suit of armor, but focusing its power on an enlarged left arm. While the entire body is heavily defended, the powerful gauntlet-like arm functions as a primary force as offense. The name comes from a combination of the word solder, meaning a metal alloy used to join two other pieces of metal together in welding, and soldier. The steel typing was a given, and while I could give it an ice typing to match up with that Winter Soldier naming convention, I went with ground type to better capture the sturdiness of the character and round out this team's typing better. And if you've seen Thunderbolts, you remember that big ground punch that Bucky does, and I wanted to get that same type of energy into this design. One of my favorite characters introduced into the MCU was US Agent, also known as the Super Patriot. The Super Patriot first appeared in Captain America number 323 back in November of 1986. Very cool character and a dark reflection of what Captain America could have been. He's gone through a ton of different names, even taking on the official name of Captain America, both in the MCU and in comics for a time.
John, I think the first thing everyone wants to know is, what is it like being Captain America?
So seeing him and the entire journey that the character of John Walker that he goes through is insane. Throughout the movie, he's kind of seen as just kind of the jerk of the group, but there's so much beyond that. There's so much turmoil within that I had to figure out a way to translate this onto a Pokemon while being something hopefully cool and hopefully you guys would enjoy. A lot comes into this, especially given that he's one of my favorite characters, not just of the movie, but in the MCU as a whole. Kind of one-dimensional throughout the comics, but really takes on a personality as we see him in live action. So when I went in, I kind of had to figure out what I wanted to make the focus point of this design, and I went crab. I went crab, okay? I know, I'm gonna hear a lot of people say, Stern, how come every other video you make some sort of crab-based Pokemon? Well, let me say this is not technically a crab, it is a mantis shrimp. Why? Because mantis shrimp are cool. Did you know that they can see colors that we humans can't see? And they have these tremendous claws that are used for making punches at the heat of the sun. So I wanted to bring that in because a big focus for John Walker is that super soldier serum. It's his one thing that makes him feel powerful, that makes him feel like he deserves to be a superhero. So why not focus him around an animal that is so well known for having this punch, for being the super soldier of the animal kingdom? So I made that, and I also got to utilize that big pistol shrimp type of claw that they have to make this shield, kind of a taco-shaped shield, if you will, around the one of the arms here. So bring in a couple different aspects, a little bit of fiddler crab, a little bit of mantis shrimp, a little bit of pistol shrimp, all to make something that feels very weak but strong, and I think that that really captures the idea of John Walker. He's very, very self-conscious about who he is and what he's meant to represent, hides that behind this veil of fake confidence in saying, I was Captain America, I deserve to be Captain America, but ultimately he doesn't capture the essence of Captain America. So he grows to become his own hero, and while we don't, as far as I know, hear the words US agent said in Thunderbolts, it's who he is, it's who he reflects, and who he's meant to be. So I'm really interested to see what they end up calling him as the story of him in the MCU progresses, but for the moment, I really, really dig the character, and utilizing the stripes and multicolor of Mantis Shrimp allows us to bring in the stripes across the chest of the character, allows us to make this big shield, allows us to use this very mean type of look to the character. So it feels like it fits a lot of different points here to make something that is fun, right? That's kind of the whole guise of this video, right? Make something fun. So meet Usargent, the Defender Pokemon. A force of strength and defensive power, this Pokemon wields one large shield-like arm. Its powerful punches can shatter metal, which leaves it having an adversarial relationship with Sawdier, as the two often challenge one another, usually resulting in a stalemate. This Pokemon will leave their eggs to fend for themselves as they go on to seek further challenges and prove their own strength. While not mentioned in the Thunderbolts movie and more so said in the Falcon/Captain America and Winter Soldier series, this character's name is US Agent, and I wanted to get into that name. So the name is a combination of US Agent, Sergeant, and Ardent, which means passionate, sometimes to a fault. The Water-Fire type captures the sense of inner conflict like we see with the character, while also giving us further interpretation of that Mantis Shrimp design, and giving us a red, white, and blue typing color scheme. So looking at Bob, we have to think about him as an experimented on human. So I looked at Pokemon that kind of fit that same build. Pokemon like Mewtwo and Silvally. Pokemon that create this atmosphere of darkness, of sadness about them. So I looked at the story structure of this Pokemon even before the building and drawing of them. Looked at something that was meant to mimic the starter Pokemon, meant to have that iconic type of look, and yet was pushed to the side. A Pokemon that was built by man to say, hey, we can do better than Pokemon.
Define irony.
And so built this lizardy type of little Pokemon. The reason for making it a lizard type is because for a long time, Dragon has always been seen as the big and powerful type of Pokemon typing, until Fairy became a thing. But for the moment, we want to look at things kind of on the outset, very one-dimensionally. Dragons are powerful, so we're going to make a dragon-type Pokemon to be a starter. Wouldn't that be cool? Wouldn't that be interesting to start off your journey with a dragon? Unfortunately, things kind of go awry. We get this normal type, lizardy type of thing, and I dig him. I went with a bluish grayish color scheme to really get that sterile type of look, that medically engineered type of Pokemon design, so I really dig it. It's a very simple concept, especially for what's to come of it. So this is Lizout, the experimental Pokemon. Created by scientists to be a new alternative to the much-loved starters of the region, this Pokemon was forgotten and left to the lab. However, upon awakening this Pokemon, it can be found to house tremendous potential. The name brings in that lizardy sound with the term without thrown in, Lizout. It makes the Pokemon feel like it was forgotten, like it was thrown out, like it wasn't wanted. And the concept of this as a normal type rather than the predestined dragon type is that its potential is locked away. It still has that draconic DNA, but hidden behind that weak normal typing. In the movie, the destiny of Bob is to become the Sentry, but we see that verge off into two different forms of the character. And I thought, why not do the same thing here? Why not look at the story of this character and this team as a Pokemon game? Starting out with Pokemon Sentry. In Pokemon Sentry, your Lizout would evolve into something powerful, something strong, and something glorious. I wanted to go with the same color schemes that we see for Sentry, not just in the movie, but in the comics as well. Sentry first appeared in 2000, that's 8 years before the actual MCU launched in the Sentry #1, and was Marvel's answer to what do we do about characters like Superman and Superman's popularity. Well, what if we made Superman, but he was weird, right? Broken, complex in the number of ways. So they created the Sentry, even to the point of giving him his own watchtower built right on top of Avengers HQ, which was later adapted into the Thunderbolts movie. So I wanted to capture a lot of this look, make him feel heroic, make him feel powerful, bringing in that dragon typing and making that kind of the form over the entirety of it, making him have this form of grandeur, that he's big, that he's powerful, that he's a god to this Pokemon universe, and ultimately treat him as the legendary of this type of game. I really dig the direction, and I played around with what to do and how to make these different ideas come together in different ways. One thing that I played with a lot was turning the tail into the hair, really focusing in on that aspect, since in the movie, Sentry's hair is kind of the breaking point for him, going from Bob Sentry working for DeFontaine into becoming a hero-esque, godlike villain himself. It's the straw that breaks the camel's back, and I wanted to make it be a key part in this design. It also gives an interesting silhouette and design element to this Pokemon. I wanted to bring in the cape as well, so created these wings that kind of drop down. While it levitates, it has these wings more so for looks. It's a Pokemon that's very much about how it looks rather than how it acts. It deserves to be the hero, and so can do all these things that don't make sense. Have wings, but not use them to fly. Have a tail that's not attached to the body, but to the head. And I think that it also brings in that whole hacked up type of science type of vibe to the design. It makes it feel like this thing wasn't made naturally, but engineered, and engineered incorrectly, but still has this tremendous power. So this is Centrake, the Sentry Pokemon. With its true power unleashed, this legendary Pokemon has adapted a personality of grandeur. It believes itself to be a commander of the region and more powerful than any other in the area. It is quick to challenge any Pokemon that it perceives as a threat. Bringing together the term Sentry with Drake, this Pokemon is a powerful psychic dragon type. And also there's a little bit more of misunderstanding in the name, being that a Drake is a dragon without wings. Centrake is a dragon that has wings but doesn't use them, and is even built kind of upside down, with the tail coming out of the head, and the back legs appearing more like what we'd see on the front legs of a dragon, and the arms appearing much more humanoid. It's a mix match of all these different aspects to try and create a heroic Pokemon, but ultimately creating a villain. But say that you didn't pick Pokemon Sentry. Say instead you picked the counterpart game, Pokemon Void. What kind of legendary would appear then? Would it be this bright golden god of justice, or would it be something much, much darker? When designing this Pokemon, I wanted to bring those aspects in. I wanted it to feel like it was the other side of the coin to our Sentry-based Pokemon, Centrake. I wanted it to feel like instead of having this long winding tail that it could be proud of, it instead had this long flowing shadow, this physical embodiment of loss and depression flowing right out of this Pokemon's head, manifesting itself in a physical form, to the point that the wings in Centrake that were just for looks to make it appear heroic are now these energized wings of shadow and loss. All of these dark thoughts and energies now physically manifested into the shape of this Pokemon. The body becoming blackened and dark, becoming something that is a living nightmare. I looked at Pokemon like Darkrai and Shadow Lugia as examples of this, and wanted to make something that felt like a living nightmare. The shapes that would make up a Pokemon normally are still there. They still exist in this vague semblance, but over the top of all of it is this depression, this darkness, this shroud. And it very much fits the idea of the character in the Thunderbolts movie, where Void is lost to the void, to that darkness, to that depression, to allowing himself to fall, to let Bob succumb to that darkness. So this Pokemon is the dark reflection of Centrake, but it's so much more. It's not just what if Centrake was evil, it's what if Centrake was what was on the inside. You turn this Pokemon inside out. Rather than just being a good one and an evil one, it is a complex character, but now the inside is on the outside, and the outside is on the inside. This isn't what happens if Centrake turns evil, It's what happens if Sentry took on the form that it always truly was. So meet Veroid, the Void Pokemon. With its true power unleashed, this legendary Pokemon has adapted a personality of loss. It believes itself to be a commander of the region and more powerful than any other in the area. It is quick to challenge any Pokemon that it perceives as a threat. Now you'll notice that this dex entry is nearly identical to Sentrake's. The name Veroid brings in dragon and void, while also referencing Viroids, which are infectious entities that can wipe out plant life entirely, turning them into burnt black husks. Obviously, as a dark dragon type, it carries a type advantage over its counterpart. So those are our Thunderbolts as Pokemon. What do you think? Who's your favorite? Are you picking Pokemon Sentry or Pokemon Void? And as I ask in most videos, let me know what abilities you think these Pokemon should have. You guys are a lot better at that than I am, and it's one of my favorite parts of these videos is getting to go down in the comments and see what you guys can think up for these Pokemon. But while you're down there, don't forget to stop by the description where you can find access to my Patreon and Ko-fi. On the Patreon, you'll get high-res images of these Pokemon as well as others from previous videos, and at the Ko-fi, you can buy designs like these for yourself. You can also become a YouTube member for just $3 a month. That gets you access into our monthly giveaways where we give away the most recent English Pokemon packs to one lucky member. You also get these videos early, and I'm starting to kind of work to get ahead on this stuff so that you can get those videos rather than the day before, a week before. So there's going to be a lot going on in the channel that changes up some of those perks, and I'm really excited about it. I hope you are too. But with all that said, it sounds like you know where to find me, and I'll catch you in the next one. And before we go, I want to give a big shout out to all the people who help make these videos possible, including our higher tier Patreon supporters. You can become a supporter for free, but these people have gone above and beyond to make sure that they get access to that cool stuff, as well as help make these videos happen. So big shout out to Dan Bush, Emp Spange, Styx TV, Soren Frost, Kaylin Cat, Daniel, Siren Shadows, Justin Grenier, Cam Nor Shorter, Jeremy Sunday, Drake Null, Lex Wright, Yudra Sakaki, Sky, Elandriel, Sean, Kobo4231, and our latest Patreon supporter, Chompy Kachan. I also want to give a shout out to all of our YouTube members. Those being Crimbo McSwizzle, Kaylin Cat, Somni Star, Siren Shadow, Zed Ravenmore, Sigil Sealed, RJ, and Lynx Ia. Thank you guys so much for being a part of the channel, and I love you.
Nope, I'm actually okay, thank you.